G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek report time, back to basics. Where do we start? Let's start with the news. Just broke today. I already done a video on it previously today, but I can carry on, pick up from where we left off there. Oleksandr Usyk, Anthony Joshua rematch, Sky Sports, August the 20th, pay-per-view as we expected, an increase of about £2. Roughly about £2 increase. Now, I said it once, I say it again, I'm not surprised they increased it. I'm pleasantly surprised they didn't increase it to £30. I really did think that would be the amount they'd increase it to. So, Usyk versus AJ, we know where it's going to be. We know what it's going to be on. I would assume, see, they haven't specified international broadcastings in that, but I would imagine it's a formality. I'd imagine that the majority of countries who have the zone will have it on the zone. I'd imagine anyway. I'm very surprised they didn't. So, in the UK and Ireland, it's going to be Sky Sports. Look, it was a bit kind of all up in the air. You know, last night me and Del, we were talking about this, and Del even said he wouldn't be surprised if one of them got a mysterious injury. And you know, you were kind of starting to have them little thoughts because you were just thinking it's not a case of the fight not selling. It's a case of who's it going to be on? Can they secure the broadcaster? And what the hell is going on? Obviously, whatever's happened, and they've been able to resolve it. We are going to get to see this fight on pay-per-view. It is an increase. It is. At the end of the day, you know, Sky are trying to make a profit. At Sky, they won't be working with AJ moving forward, win or lose. So they're probably thinking, make as much money as we can. And I think as well, you know, Sky only have had one pay-per-view this year. And I think they probably had a plan. We want more pay-per-views than one by this time anyway. By this time in the year than they had planned. They obviously wanted, I think, to do Eubank versus Kell Brook. That didn't happen. Kell Brook retired. They might have looked to do an Amir Khan rematch if both guys had wanted it. They probably would have done that, actually, to be fair, on pay-per-view, but they both retired. So they're really, they don't have the stable. They don't have the stable to be doing regular pay-per-views. You know, it's just they just don't, you know. I mean, Eubank, talk about him in a wee bit, he could be fighting Conor Benn, but that more than likely be in his own pay-per-view. So Sky are trying to make they're trying to make the most of what they can get. You know, basically, you know, they can get AJ on pay-per-view for this one last fight. They're trying to make a profit on it. They really nobody, like, I honestly, I cannot see Sky do another pay-per-view. Could I? No, I couldn't really see him do another pay-per-view between now and the end of the year. I'd be surprised if they did. So they're looking to make whatever they can from this and then say, see ya, if you lose, the zone can have you. I say if AJ wins, I'd say Sky will be thinking, crap, you know, what we would have done to have him on Sky and keep making us money. But look, we have this rematch announced. We have a broadcaster, so that's one little box ticked. And if people were starting to worry about the fight and kind of maybe doubting would it go ahead, I think that it's fair to say we're in the clear. You know, touch wood, we're in the clear for this fight going ahead. So AJ Usyk, August 20th. I will hopefully have a documentary out some stage next week. It's just been a bit busy, a bit hectic, and I'm doing some other work in the YouTube end at the minute, so I'm kind of trying to juggle everything. So the work on the documentary I'm doing is getting pushed on the back foot just until next week, which is still plenty of time. You know, it still gives me a good 3 weeks to be able to have it on there while it's still fairly relevant. So we'll watch the space with that. So yeah, AJ Usyk, we know it's going to be on. I think we all assumed it would, but you just don't know with these things. You know, you really don't. And just speaking of Anthony Joshua, you know, I seen Hatman's video yesterday where he was talking about more so about Deontay Wilder being ranked number 1 by the WBC, and I was thinking, you know what? As bad as that sounds, I'm not surprised. I mean, Wilder, but before he lost to Fury, even before then, he was a darling of the WBC. You could see it in the way I think Mauricio Sullivan even walked with him to the ring for a couple of his defences. He was real pally with Deontay Wilder post all of his title defenses. So you could see Sullivan, he had a bit of a soft spot for Deontay Wilder. He probably liked Wilder's personality. I don't know, just like the fact Wilder was a puncher, but he was becoming a darling of the WBC when he was champion. So for him to, and like, it's so stupid. I mean, like, 2 back-to-back losses, hasn't won a fight since 2019, and he's number 1 ranked by the WBC. Not mandatory, but number 1 ranked. Therefore, technically speaking, if he was to go in and fight a Robert Helenius, just for argument's sake, there's a pretty good chance the WBC, without even announcing it, would probably say, right, he's mandatory, give Wilder a shot. It's crazy. You know, when you say you want to earn a title shot, I think people mean earn it as in win a couple of fights and then boom, there you go, you're in with a shot at the title. Not just, you know, we'll rank you number 1 even though you haven't won a fight in 3 years, and then you get 1 win and then boom, you're mandatory. I mean, the WBC wouldn't rule them out doing that. I was talking about AJ not getting that same treatment. Let's have a look at the rankings here. So the WBO, AJ held that title. He is 4th behind Frank Sanchez, Joe Parker, and Joe Joyce. Really? AJ to be 4th. Now, Sanchez, I think Sanchez is a dark horse. Who's Parker beaten? Junior Fa, Derek Chisora, twice. That's it. And obviously Joe Joyce is number 1 ranked. I think he's he might be mandatory, or they might order him and Parker to fight, but still, AJ only just losing the title, and he's behind all them. Let's see at the IBF. Number 1 is vacant. Obviously, I was just looking there, I was like, number 1 is vacant, but Hrgovic, he's been trying to get that final eliminator over the line for a while now. He's finally got Zhilei Zhang, who is... Where is Zhilei Zhang in the WBC? He's 15th. Wow. Really? So hang on a second. AJ's 4th with the IBF, right? Ortiz is 2nd, Luis Ortiz. So Hrgovic tried to get Ortiz, didn't happen. Tried to get Parker, didn't happen. Not too sure about Joe Joyce. Looking down, Yoka didn't happen because Yoka had to fight Piccoli. I say he's regretting that now. And you go all the way down, and Zhilei Zhang, who was fighting he's fighting his final eliminator against on the undercard of AJ Usyk, is 15th. So you've number 2 going up against number 15 in a final eliminator. IBF, how does that work? Like, really, how does that work? They've dropped, saying who they've dropped out. They've dropped out Andy Ruiz from the rankings, I would imagine, because of inactivity, and Hughie Fury, I would imagine possibly the same. Now here we go. WBC, Wilder number 1, Joyce number 2, Parker 3, Sanchez 4, Ruiz 5, Makimov number 6, Dylan White, there's a fall from grace. He's down at number 7, Ortiz 8, Wallen 9, Helenius in at number 10, as well. Helenius in the top 10, there you go. Hrgovic is down number 14th. They still have Kabayel ranked, who's done virtually nothing in the last few years. And AJ with the WBA is 5th, behind Hughie Fury, Helenius, Hunter, and Dubois. The WBO, or WBA, some of their rankings over the last few years, I have my own little theory about their rankings, because there have been guys like Bogdan Dinu who've been ranked as high as... That's how Dubois got that shot against Trevor Bryan, was that he fought Bogdan Dinu for the interim title, which then made him mandatory to fight Trevor Bryan for the regular title. Bogdan Dinu had 2 wins in 2 years against nobodies, and the WBA catapulted him to number 2 in the rankings. They done that last year. And my kind of thinking is, do the WBA know that there are promoters like Fish Eyes, Eddie Hearn, Bob Arum, etc., who have these prospects that they're trying to build, and they're maybe trying to get them, you know, into them kind of positions. And by rating guys who shouldn't be ranked that highly, you have these promoters saying, go on, take my money WBA, take my money promoter, we'll take Bogdan Dinu, we'll take that super high ranking, thank you very much, here's your sanction fees, WBA are happy boys, and then they move on. Because I can't understand why you'd rank someone like Bogdan Dinu. When he got that ranking, he'd fought 2 nobodies, and he was number 2 with the WBA. I can't remember, I think it was only Brian, might have been Brian or Char, who was ahead of him, and Manuel Charme in that situation. And remember the Freza Kendo situation as well. I mean, that seemed to go on for years. Freza Kendo fought Ruslan Shagayev in 2014, for those who don't know. And he lost on a majority decision. A lot of controversy about that whole event. But he lobbied for a rematch. WBA made him mandatory, and he never fought again. He was mandatory for the regular belt, it was, until I think about 2017. So like maybe even later, maybe 2018, but it was a good few years he was there in the rankings, number one. And he's not fought since the Shagayev fight. That was in 2014. The WBA is all over the place with their rankings. You know, I remember back in 2016, they said they were looking to consolidate the regular and the super. That lasted for didn't last at all. Never happened. You know, try hard as they did. Sanction fees. You know, that's what it's about. Like, you'll have people bidding for them sanction fees. So that's the situation there. So Deontay Wilder, number one with the WBC. Let's see what happens. Tyson Fury has revealed that an exhibition fight with Thor Bjornsson, also known as Thor, is in talks for November at a stadium in London. It'd be great to get in there in front of 70,000 fans and show them what boxing is all about, make him miss and knock him out. Now, I saw Bjornsson versus Eddie Hall, and boy, did those two guys. I'm surprised they didn't get injured. That was a big shock that they didn't get injured. I was surprised. But neither guy had any real stamina. They're both absolutely knackered after a couple of rounds. I think it was only a 5-rounder. Both guys hit the deck. There was a few fun moments in it, but I mean, Tyson Fury would have an exhibition, he'd have a laugh. He wouldn't take it serious. And I do genuinely think Tyson Fury is taking a big, close look at the AJ Usyk fight. I'm 100% convinced if AJ wins, Fury, out of retirement, Joshua, Wembley Stadium or Saudi Arabia, whichever has the most money, and he's fighting Joshua. If Usyk wins, expect Thor not to be the first exhibition. That's what I'll say to that. If Usyk wins, I'd be very surprised if Fury returns. That's again, it's not me saying that Fury is afraid of Oleksandr Usyk. I'm not saying that he's afraid of him, but I reckon he just sees AJ as just a fight that he can get up for more. You know, an all-British affair. People used to give Fury a lot of stick, especially when he was out of the ring, because AJ was doing all this, and maybe he wants to just settle that score, because when he was out of the ring, AJ was picking up the belts that he'd beaten from Klitschko, and people were saying Fury is this, and at that time Fury was still not a liked character. I mean, we have this vision of Tyson Fury now, where he did 90,000+ in Wembley, people cheering for him. If you go back to like 2015, 2016, 2017, people did not like Tyson Fury. The majority of people didn't like him. He had a fan base, nothing quite like he has now. But AJ was the guy back then. He wasn't, when I say the guy, he was just the biggest star in British boxing. He had all the casuals, and Fury was a rival of him. AJ was unbeaten at the time. So a lot of them were giving Fury stick. So when Fury came back and, got wins over Wilder, did all that, Fury literally is overtaking AJ. I would say Fury probably has overtaken AJ in terms of popularity in the UK. Certainly if he loses to Usyk, I mean, there's no question then. But if AJ wins, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Fury came out and said, boom, we're back. I'm going to fight Anthony Joshua next. If Usyk wins, then that's going to be a bit more interesting. It's going to be a bit more interesting. Showtime have revealed that Jake Paul versus Hasim Rahman Jr., which is happening next week, will cost $60. They haven't announced anywhere here in the UK that is going to show it. If it happens over here, I'll do a watch along, as in, like, it will happen, but it just depends how we get it. If it's Sky, hopefully, because that's easier, hopefully, we'll do a watch along. If it's the Zone, we will. I can't link it to the TV, which is annoying, but if it's Fight TV or something like that, yeah, we're kind of hands tied behind our backs in that case. The Josh Taylor Jack Catterall rematch is now reportedly set to take place November 26th, a bit away, it has to be a bit away, in Glasgow, Scotland. So back in Scotland for the Josh Taylor Jack Catterall rematch. So that's interesting. Now, Josh Taylor, when he beat Jack Catterall originally, he seemed to show no real signs at the time of he said he didn't need to go in for a rematch. He's already beaten him, but he's obviously been getting a lot of stick from people, and I think some of Josh Taylor's comments after didn't help the fact. I think some of Josh Taylor's comments rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way. And, Ben Davison being his trainer, Ben Davison is someone that people just like to criticise. Although I said it with Dale last night, I don't necessarily, the more I think about it, the more I look, I don't think Ben Davison's a bad coach. But maybe his style with Josh Taylor, maybe it's not real. I think Ben Davison, as Dale said, is more a back foot type of guy, a long range type of guy. Josh Taylor is best mid to close range. And I think he needs that type of trainer who's a bit more universal. It's not like kind of back foot boxing. Someone who can do a bit of back foot boxing, he needs to put mid to close range as well. Maybe that's what Taylor needs. I don't know. But rematch here. That was probably the best performance I've ever seen. It was definitely the best performance I've ever seen Jack Catterall perform. Can he do it like that again? I've no doubt he can. But I think that was the worst performance I've ever seen Josh Taylor give. And for that reason, I feel that Josh Taylor has more to offer, has more to improve. Yes, the weight cut might be an issue, but he has a lot more time now this time to prepare for it. He has till the end of November. He's got a couple of months. So Josh Taylor, I think, will probably do the weight a bit easier. And I think if Josh Taylor is at anywhere near his best, and Jack Catterall is, he probably still beats Jack Catterall. Close fight, but probably still beats him. Now, they announced that Liam Smith will make his Sky debut on September the 3rd in Liverpool. Of course, be Liverpool. He's fighting Hassan Wakino. Now, you might remember him. He fought on the AJ Povetkin undercard in a fight where... No, it wasn't that card. Or was it? No, it was in Bolton, I think. I think it was on the Amir Khan Samuel Vargas fight. He fought Sam Egerton. Now, Sam Egerton took that fight as a little bit of a run out because he was meant to fight Brandon Rios. I think it might have even been signed for that. He was meant to fight Brandon Rios on the Povetkin undercard, the Povetkin Joshua undercard. Went in there against Wakino, no defense, and got taken out in 2 rounds. So Wakino can punch a bit. Liam Smith, he's back. He's on Sky now. He's back. He's with Ben Shalom and Boxer. It's his 3rd promoter in his career after Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. We will see how he looks. He got a win there last time out over Jesse Vargas. I personally expected him to win. I'd never really rated Jesse Vargas too highly, certainly not at 154. So he's trying to make one last little run. I like Liam Smith out of the Smith brothers. He's the one that has the most fire in him. He's the, Callum probably has achieved the most, but Liam is the one I just think is the best all round. So Liam Smith against Hassan Wakino. I'll have a look at that. I always like watching Liam Smith fight. Let's have a look and see, is there anything else? Obviously, Danny Garcia makes his return to the ring at 154 pounds against Jose Benavidez Jr. We'll have a look. I don't think Garcia has any real business at 154 pounds, truth be told. But you never know. He could surprise me. Obviously, the weekend is Isaac Chamberlain versus Chris Billam-Smith. Let's have a quick run through the undercard before we do anything. And by the way, I'm still not really getting used to this new box rec. I don't like it really at all like this. The old box rec was just much, much better. I much preferred the old box rec, but classic ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's see. We have Fraser Clark against TBA. A lot of TBAs. Ben Whittaker makes his pro debut against Greg O'Neill. I think I've seen Greg O'Neill a few times. I think Felix Cash fought him a couple of years ago. And I think Felix Cash took him out in a round or two. Wasn't a good opponent, was Greg O'Neill. But Ben Whittaker's pro debut. I'll be keeping my eye on Ben Whittaker, definitely. Joe Pigford against TBA. Joe Pigford is one of them fighters where at the start of his career I wasn't really sold on him, but he's been growing on me a little bit over the last. He's getting better, definitely. And obviously we have Billam-Smith versus Chamberlain. Isaac Chamberlain sole loss, a 10-round stinker against Lawrence Okoli. Billam-Smith sole loss, a split decision over Riakporhe. Now, I've seen a bit of Isaac Chamberlain on Channel 5. I think he is looking better. It is kind of sad that he's kind of resorted to, he's with Mick, and no disrespect to Mick Hennessy, but like Mick Hennessy, he's not one of the big guys. He's stuck over with Mick Hennessy. I think he still has a few more years. I think he signed a 5-year deal with Hennessy or something crazy like that. Long-term deal, it was crazy. So he's been kind of in the wilderness as Chamberlain, but I've always rated Chamberlain's ability. He does seem to have a bit more size on him now. He seems to be actually sitting down on his punches a hell of a lot more than he used to. And I think that if we see Usyk Chamberlain at his best, in my opinion, he's a better fighter than Bill Smith. In my opinion, if we see him at his best, he should win this fight. However, two things. One, Bill Smith is not a bad fighter either. Second of all, it's in Bournemouth, Bill Smith's home. It's going to be hard for Chamberlain to get a decision. Chamberlain throughout his career has made certain fights, not all, certain fights, harder than they need be. He's shown tremendous heart a few times. I remember Eddie Hearn put a show on in the York Hall. I don't think it was televised. It was way back in 2016. It was like a trial of his Next Gen show. It was like the first Next Gen show ever. I don't think it was televised. And Chamberlain threw his shoulder out. Like literally, it was like George Gross, like dislocated. And he's very lucky. That's never reoccurred. Normally that does happen with fighters, but it's never reoccurred for Chamberlain. He's lucky. And he was able to fight through. I forget who he fought. I think it might have been Wadi Camacho. And Wadi Camacho, nothing special, but like still, fighting him with your show, one arm basically, and winning, it's not too bad. So he's always shown heart. He's made fights harder than they need to be, like against Luke Watkins. He should have won that fight easy. He really should have won that fight. He's leagues better than Luke Watkins, and he saw it in the last round. He was way better than Luke Watkins. So I think he needs to make sure he leaves no stone unturned and go in and leave a mark on this fight. Will he get the nod? That's another story. I don't know. But I definitely think that if I had to pick and it was fair, Chamberlain should win this fight. He really should. So I'll be interested to watch it. And I'll be also interested to watch I'll watch Fraser Clark, but definitely Ben Whittaker. I'll be having a good eye on him. And seeing how he gets on. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of the week and what we can talk about. So for now, people, I'll leave you with that. Obviously, I've got a few more things planned this week. Script got to get finished, got to get recording the documentary for AJ Usyk. Hopefully, I'll have a live out this Friday. Watch the space. Hopefully, we'll have a guest on. Fingers crossed. And yeah, I'm doing some other work. I mean, I'll talk about that more in a maybe later on in the week when I have stuff that I need to do for the other channel ready to go. It's not a boxing channel, but I'll talk about that more now later on in the week. Maybe review of the week. We'll plug it a bit. But I definitely am going to be I'm putting a lot of time into YouTube now at the minute, because it's one of them things where like I'm really seeing the benefit of, how do I say it, like putting as much time into this as I can, missing events. And when I say events, I mean like just going out with your mates. You do see the benefit of it. I'm seeing it now every other day in this channel. It's growing every single day, and it's crazy good. So I need to keep that up, because obviously, when you see the benefit of something working, you see the repetition, you want to keep going at that. You have to do it. You have to keep a good thing going. So I'll definitely be keeping doing that. Enough rambling. Hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Getting closer and closer to 9,000. It's 9, and then it's 10. I'm just thinking of that number, and I'm like, yes, we're going to hit that soon. We definitely will. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Peace.